Welcome back to the cryptoworld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now a massive warning signal is flashing on the Bitcoin chart while the price is now running into critical short-term support. So I'll be talking about that in just a moment, alongside Ethereum, which is now flashing a new signal in the short term that we need to pay attention to, while Solana is now running into the next critical area of support after just breaking this area of support. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in this video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before getting into some important Bitcoin charts, first taking a look at the Bitcoin ETF news today, and on Thursday we saw another net inflow of around 91 million US dollars. And basically that entire inflow was thanks to BlackRock. There was almost no inflows into any of the other ETFs, but BlackRock on Thursday had an inflow of nearly $200 million. But of course, we saw yet another outflow from Grayscale. Grayscale is still dumping their Bitcoin every single weekday, and this time on Thursday, they had an outflow of around 125 million US dollars. And at the time of recording this video, we do not yet have all of the numbers from Friday, but of course, we're likely going to see another decent outflow from Grayscale on Friday, considering the dump in the price of Bitcoin. But with that being said, if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin halving countdown, there's only 1 week to go until the Bitcoin halving, which is fundamentally an extremely bullish event for Bitcoin, because this essentially reduces the selling pressure from the Bitcoin miners. And of course, if you're reducing selling pressure, that is good news for the price. That is bullish for the price if there's less people selling Bitcoin. But usually the Bitcoin halving doesn't have an impact immediately. It has an impact over the next few months, over the next 1 year or so. And historically speaking, throughout Bitcoin's entire price history, so far we have seen 3 previous halvings, and every single halving has led to a major bull market, with the Bitcoin price going much higher over the next 1 year or so after the halving. And so do not be fooled by short-term bearish price action, because we can always see short-term bearish price action, but when we're looking at the bigger picture, we're still in this 4-year halving cycle, and we're just about to see the 4th Bitcoin halving, which once again happens only once every 4 years. And if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin charts here on the weekly time frame, we are still potentially repeating history, because as of right now, the price of Bitcoin is still struggling around that all-time high breakout level, which is something that I've been talking about over the last few weeks, basically non-stop. And so if you've been watching any of my videos over the last few weeks, you should not be surprised by the price action that we're seeing right now, because the price is still struggling around that all-time high breakout level, which is exactly what I've been talking about and exactly what we've seen in past bull cycles. But ultimately, this is temporary. Of course, it's happening right now in the short term, but this type of price action will not last forever. And ultimately, when we eventually see a breakout, a strong confirmed breakout above the all-time high, so above around $70,000 with a weekly candle close well above that level with strong volume, and ideally, if we can retest that level to flip it into new support, basically, once we see a strong confirmed breakout into fresh new all-time highs, we can simply see what happened in past bull cycles. The Bitcoin price exploded to the upside over the next few months. And so once again, despite what happens on smaller timeframes in the short term, if we're zooming out to the larger timeframes, looking at the bigger picture, zooming out, we can still see that right now the price of Bitcoin is within a bullish market in a larger bullish trend. It's just right now we're struggling around that all-time high breakout, which once again happens basically every single bull market. And something else that I've been talking about over and over again here on the channel is, of course, the DXY here on the daily time frame. This is the US dollar currency index. And more recently here on the channel, I've been warning about this going to the upside, and I've been saying how it's very unlikely we're going to see significant bullish price action here in the price of Bitcoin while this is moving to the upside. Because once again, as I've been saying here on the channel, when the DXY is bullish, it's going to be extremely difficult to see any significant bullish price action for Bitcoin, whereas when the DXY is bearish, that is when we most commonly see the most bullish price action for Bitcoin, when the DXY is bearish. And so obviously with the latest spike to the upside that we've seen just over the last 1 to 2 days here in the DXY, once again, this is telling us that this is a bit of a short-term warning signal for Bitcoin, telling us that we should not really be expecting a lot of high bullish momentum, at least in the short term. Remember, this is different to larger timeframes because ultimately the larger trend at play is still a bullish trend. Ultimately, we're still trending in the bullish direction despite short-term bearish price action here and there. It's just right now during this larger bullish trend, we're at a stage within the trend where we're taking a bit of a break from that bullish trend due to the DXY as one of the main factors spiking to the upside. And as always, I'll make sure to keep you up to date on this DXY and other important charts here in these videos. So make sure you subscribe to this channel with notifications turned on so that you don't miss out on any of these important update videos. And right now, while the price is basically consolidating sideways here on the daily time frame, looking relatively neutral, we're still forming this ascending triangle pattern, and we're actually running into this ascending line of support right now, which is sitting at around 66,500. And so, of course, if we see a confirmed break with candle closes on the daily time frame below 66,500, then that would confirm a break to the downside below this support and set up a potential bearish price target based on this triangle pattern. And that bearish price target for this ascending triangle pattern would be sitting at approximately $55,000. But on the other hand, if we do not confirm a break below this support and instead we hold this area of support and see a bounce from that area, then in that case, that technical price target to the downside does not come into play. And we still have this area of resistance, which we've just seen another rejection from, which is sitting in between around 71.5K to 73.5K. And if we actually hold this area of support right here and then see a breakout above around 73,500, so basically into new all-time highs, then that could set up a bullish price target for this pattern, which would be sitting at around $89,000. And so once again, at least at the time of recording this video, we have not yet confirmed a break of either of those levels, which basically means, at least as of right now, we have not yet confirmed the next major move or the next technical price target here on the daily time frame, at least based on this pattern right here. And if you're wondering about my personal trading strategy, as I've shared over the last few days, I'm currently building a long position for the next leg to the upside in the bull market. But as I've also shared here on the channel recently, even though I am starting to build that long position, I can afford the price of Bitcoin going further to the downside because as of right now, it's only a very small position. And basically, as Bitcoin pulls further back to the downside, I have buy orders to the downside that will trigger and lower my entry price and increase the size of that position the lower we go. And also, as of right now, it's a very low leverage long position. So even if Bitcoin dumps all the way back down to 50K or 40K, I would not get liquidated on that position because it's very low leverage and I have more buy orders to the downside. So whether we bounce right here or at a lower price, either way, I can profit from that trade. And so essentially what I'm betting on is that we're eventually at some point in the future going to see the continuation of the bullish market, whether it's next week or next month. Either way, I do think that we're eventually going to continue the bullish market higher after potentially a bit of a pause from the bullish market, which we're seeing right now. And if you want to trade these moves in the price of Bitcoin, no matter if we're bullish or bearish, you can make money in either direction with long positions or short positions. And personally, I take trades just like that over on Bybit. So I'll make sure to leave a link to Bybit in the description down below and in the pinned comment. And also, if you use that link down below this video to Bybit, it takes you to this page right here where you can claim an exclusive 200 USDT airdrop position. And so if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out. Once again, first link down below this video if you want to claim this airdrop position and also get extra exclusive deposit bonuses. But for whatever reason, if you cannot access Bybit or if you cannot KYC on Bybit, there is also Bitflex, which is another crypto exchange similar to Bybit, but you don't need KYC for Bitflex. So I'll also leave a link to Bitflex down below this video as an alternative crypto exchange. And with that being said, zooming into the short term, looking at the 4-hour Bitcoin chart, obviously just recently we've confirmed a break below this area of support, which should now act as new resistance again. And this is sitting in between around 68,000 to 69,000. And we also have resistance at around 71.4 to 71.5K, which is pretty much exactly where we saw a rejection from over the last 1 to 2 days. And as for short-term support, now that we've broken below around 68,000, as I've also been saying recently on the channel, we have this next area of support to the downside in between around 65,000 to 66,000, which we're now running into. And so at least for now, that's the area of support to pay attention to. But if we see a confirmed break back below around 65,000, back below this low right here, then in that case, we could potentially drop back down towards around 61 to 62,000. So keep that in mind. But also, if we're taking a look at the 4-hour Bitcoin RSI, we can see that this is getting very close to oversold territories. And the last few times where the 4-hour Bitcoin RSI entered into oversold territories or got very close to oversold territories was basically right around a local low in the price of Bitcoin just before we saw a bit more of a bounce in the short term. And so once again, the RSI is not in oversold territories yet, but it's getting close, which means if we continue a slight move to the downside, perhaps further into this area of support, then we might bounce somewhere around that area. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, we still have a lot of liquidity to the upside in between around 72.9K to 74K. But obviously, as of right now, we're currently seeing a slight pullback in the short term due to other factors like the DXY massively spiking to the upside, which is a short-term bearish signal. And so when it comes to downside liquidity, we do have some liquidity sitting at around 64,500. So we could potentially hit that level to take out that liquidity. But ultimately, considering we still have a massive amount of liquidity at around 73 to 74,000, it is very likely that at some point, sometime soon, whether it's in a few days or in a few weeks from now, sometime soon, we're likely going to return back up towards those prices. And if we're taking a look at Ethereum on the weekly time frame, we can see that right now the price of ETH is breaking below this golden pocket, which was sitting in between around 3.4K to 3.5K. And if we especially confirm this break to the downside with a weekly candle close below 3.4K, then in that case, we could see a continued short-term pullback, perhaps down towards this level, which should act as support, sitting at around 2.9K. And also, if we confirm this break to the downside with a weekly candle close below 3.4K, then that area in between 3.4 to 3.5K should become new resistance. And we also have this level of resistance at around 4.1K. But ultimately, despite the short-term pullback that we're seeing right now, technically speaking, the price of ETH is still within a larger bullish trend because we're still technically forming higher highs and higher lows, which is the definition of a bullish trend. But obviously, during a bullish trend, we can see short-term bearish price action here and there, which is exactly what we're seeing right now. And if we're zooming into the short term, looking at the 4-hour time frame, right now the price of ETH obviously just broke below this area of support that was supporting the price over the last few days. And that area was sitting in between around 3460 to 3530 approximately. And basically the moment we saw a confirmed break below the lower side of that level of support, we can see the price quickly dropped to the downside. So this is the definition of support working and then breaking. And as I've also said recently here on the channel, the next major area of support to the downside is sitting in between around 3.2K to 3250, which is pretty much exactly where the price went straight to once we broke below this area. And as of right now, we're currently finding support exactly in this area as expected. But what if we start breaking below 3.2K? Well, in that case, we should find some support at around 3.1K approximately based on this previous low and the current local low that we've made with the candle wick. And below that level, once again, the next major support is sitting at around 2.9K. But what we're also seeing here on the 4-hour time frame is the RSI on the 4-hour time frame entering into oversold territories right now. And if we're simply taking a look at the last few times where the 4-hour Ethereum RSI entered into oversold territories, that happened right around some sort of local low in the price, not necessarily the bottom, but at least some sort of local low just before we saw at least a short-term bounce back to the upside. And so once again, just based on this signal in the RSI alone, it is somewhat likely that in the short term, perhaps over the next 1 to 2 days, we could potentially stabilize or see a slight bounce, possibly over the weekend. And if we're taking a look at Solana on the 8-hour time frame, obviously just recently the price of Solana officially broke to the downside from this falling wedge pattern, which is statistically unlikely but not impossible. Because as I've said recently on the channel, once again, a falling wedge pattern breaks out to the upside roughly 2 times times out of 3 and breaks to the downside roughly a third of the time. So this is the 1 out of 3 times where we break to the downside from a falling wedge pattern. And as I said just a few days ago here on the channel, the price was actually running into the final significant area of support in the short term before potentially much lower prices. I said that around 2 days ago, 2 to 3 days ago here on the channel. And so basically I said if we break below around 167, if we break that level, then expect a move straight down towards this area sitting in between 143 to 149. And obviously this is exactly played out. Basically, the moment we started to break below around 167, we saw pretty much an exact move straight to this area of support, which is basically exactly where we're bouncing from right now. And so for now, that's the area of support to pay attention to, at least in the short term. And as for resistance, we should now expect resistance in this previous area of support, sitting in between 167 to 172. And believe it or not, you can make money in crypto no matter if the price is bullish, bearish, or chopping around sideways. And if you want to know how to do that, then check out these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions. And the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that's everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.